Thank you for joining us for this look at the best original reporting from KPBS News. This week, I'm Maya Trabulsi. And in this newscast, tougher vaccine rules for schools in San Diego and across the state. We'll have a roundup of the new requirements for students and staff. What can San Diego do to make its streets safer for those who don't use a car to get around? The new focus after a tragic death near Balboa Park. And confronting the climate crisis, local kids raise their voice, worried the problem is being left for them to solve. Rent is due this weekend for millions of Californians, and for the first time since the pandemic, they are not protected by an eviction ban. KPBS race and equity reporter Christina Kim explains what that means for more than 500,000 households behind on rent.
California's eviction moratorium largely prohibited landlords from evicting tenants for not paying rent. Now it has come to an end. Landlords will be able to start eviction proceedings if a tenant hasn't paid the rent. But some protections and programs remain in place for vulnerable San Diegans. So says Gilberto Vera, senior housing attorney with the Legal Aid Society of San Diego.
The protections remaining are to prevent non-payment of rent evictions, but they require that a tenant have an application, at the very least pending for rental assistance, to prevent an eviction from proceeding in court.
Before evicting tenants, landlords will have to prove that they applied for rental assistance and that the tenant either didn't finish the application or doesn't qualify for assistance. These remaining protections extend until March 2022, but renters can't get them if no funds are available, says Vera.
Tenants who live in jurisdictions with no rental assistance would not have the protections during the COVID recovery period.
In San Diego County, there are 3 different emergency rental assistance programs that tenants and landlords can apply for. One for San Diego City residents, one for Chula Vista residents, and a county-wide program that serves cities from El Cajon to Encinitas. As of mid-September, San Diego City has $13 million remaining out of the original $170 million. Chula Vista has $10 million left out of nearly $32 million over 2 rounds of funding. And the county has an estimated $100 million left out of its $210 million fund. India Shah attended an event in Logan Heights to check in on the status of her application. She received full rent for the next 3 months.
It has really lightened my load for these next 3 months, because then I could focus on other things that I need to take care of. And if it wasn't for God opening up this program, a lot of us, we would really probably be out there on the streets.
Also starting tomorrow, SDG&E can turn off power in households that are behind on utility bills. Anyone that's behind 60 days or more on their bills is automatically signed up for a debt relief program. And the state does have programs that offer lower rates for low-income families. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
As we mentioned, emergency rental and utility relief funds are still available. You can find out more and apply at the websites that you see on your screen. Again, there are separate programs for residents in the cities of San Diego and Chula Vista, as well as San Diego County residents. Governor Gavin Newsom says a statewide vaccine mandate is on the way just as soon as the FDA gives full authorization.
Starting with 12 and above, grades 7 to 12, we will begin to apply that requirement in the next term, either January 1st or July 1st, whichever comes sooner. Concurrent with that, we also want to see all of our staff, paraprofessionals, not just teachers, bus drivers, custodial staff, and the like, the folks that really make the school system operational, also see them get vaccinated as well.
Right now, youth vaccines have emergency authorization. Here in San Diego, local schools are one step ahead. KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us about the big decision this week by our largest school district.
The message is clear.
The vaccine is safe, the vaccine is effective, and to combat this pandemic, we must get everyone vaccinated.
And there's this too.
We've got to kill the virus. And so this is our way of saying that we want it over with so we can get back to reality.
San Diego Unified board members and medical experts held a news conference this morning just hours after unanimously approving a COVID-19 vaccination mandate at their marathon meeting Tuesday night. The meeting was virtual and contentious. Dozens of people spoke during the public comment session for and very much against requiring all eligible staff and students 16 years and older to be vaccinated. Otherwise, they would be terminated or forced off campus.
And if I get coronavirus, it could be significantly worse for me.
18-year-old Zachary Patterson is the designated student board member. He voted for the mandate after publicly revealing for the first time that he is immunocompromised.
What I say is, remember me, remember us, remember the fact that we can change the outcome of this pandemic.
As the school district moves ahead with its mandate plans, opposition is not going away. There are still people with plenty to say, and they're going to keep saying it.
Last evening, before the public board meeting began, hundreds of people postured and protested outside the school administration building. For many of them, it is a matter of choice they feel has been ripped away by the board's mandate.
That they're not planning to honor personal belief exemptions, that they're planning to remove kids from in-person learning, and there are a lot of state laws and regulations that say they can't do that.
Go ahead and get your student vaccinated if they're eligible, rather than to keep your kids out of school. That is not the decision that we're looking for, and that is not our goal.
Loud and clear, mandated COVID vaccinations are here. MG Perez, KPBS News.
The KPBS website got a new look this week, but it still has all of the COVID-19 information that you've come to expect during the pandemic. For vaccine locations, local case updates, and all of our content, just click on the Tracking COVID-19 link under the News section. It might not be closure, but it is an end to a grim chapter in our local history. The shooter who attacked a Poway synagogue in 2019 will spend the rest of his life in prison. John Carroll was there as victims addressed the killer in court.
Do whatever you need to do, okay? 2.5 years later, and Hannah Kay, whose mother, Lori Gilbert Kay, was murdered by John Earnest, struggled to even begin her statement. But once Kay regained her composure, her message to the man who killed her mother was painful, eloquent, gut-wrenching.
My mother's voice is loud, steady, and clear in my heart. And because she cannot tell the world what she experienced the day she was murdered for being a Jew, I will do so for her. The voice of my mother is reclaimed within my own. John Earnest, your bullets will not wreck through my body today as they did my mother's. She is here. She is alive within my words.
It was April 27th, 2019. 54 people were inside the Chabad of Poway for a Sabbath service when Ernest drove up armed with an assault rifle. Once he was inside, he opened fire. Lori Gilbert Kay died where she fell in the entrance hall. The synagogue's founding rabbi, along with an 8-year-old girl and her uncle, were all injured. One of the worshipers was an off-duty Border Patrol agent who fired back at Ernest. He and another man rushed to stop him, but by that time his gun had jammed. They chased him out of the synagogue. Ernest sped off, but minutes later he called police, told him what he'd just done, and waited for them to arrest him.
In our 32 years of marriage, she never gave me a bad word.
Dr. Howard Kay spoke of what a wonderful person his wife was, how she focused tirelessly on helping others.
Even after her death, we would get thank you notes, kept coming in, because what Lori used to do is she used to give checks to people to give to charities when she traveled.
Lori Gilbert Kay's sister, Randy Grossman, noted the presence of good next to evil in the courtroom, as she described in her way what happened that April day of 2019.
This monster hunted down and murdered my sister Lori, wounding 3 others, including a little girl. And why? Why? What did they ever do to him? He hated Jews, so he decided to kill Jews.
Today brings to a close a 2.5-year-long legal journey for John Earnest and the beginning of a life in prison. For the families, a day of justice rendered that may or may not do anything to ease their unimaginable pain. From downtown, John Carroll, KPBS News.
A San Diego family is coping with its own tragedy after their loved one died in a crash near Balboa Park. The city says it's working to add miles of protected bike lanes to prevent this sort of thing from happening again. As Andrew Bowen reports, the changes can't come soon enough for some.
Laura Keenan picks up her 1-year-old son, Evan, sits him down in her living room, and reads him a book.
He loves this book.
Yeah.
Touch your hand if it can't. Yeah, get it in the small hand.
Evan's big blue eyes keep darting from the book to our camera. His big smile belies a horrific tragedy this family experienced 2 weeks ago. Evan's father, Matt, was biking through Mission Valley when a driver going the opposite direction crossed the road's double yellow lines and struck Matt head-on. Neither Matt's helmet nor his lights could save him. He died almost immediately.
He was just so excited to see Evan grow up and do all this stuff with Evan. Like I mentioned, he was going to take his first steps soon, and Matt wanted to teach him music and play sports with him, and he's never going to be able to do that.
Laura knows her son will grow up not knowing his father, but she's trying to keep Matt's memory alive. Her husband was funny, kind, charismatic, a caretaker, and he loved biking.
He'd ride to work. He works in La Jolla, so he'd ride from North Park to La Jolla. He would ride his bike to go to the grocery store or just run different errands. It was just, if a day went by without biking, it was not a complete day for him.
Laura's husband was riding in a narrow painted bike lane when he was hit. She's convinced if the bike lane had some kind of physical barrier, a curb, even plastic posts, Matt would still be alive today.
Paint isn't protection.
Elizabeth Mayer is program manager for the nonprofit Bike SD. She says Matt Keenan's death shows many of the city's planned and existing bike lanes are inadequate, especially considering the city's adoption of Vision Zero, a campaign to end all traffic deaths by 2025.
There are certain areas that do not have protected bike lanes that we believe should. And so that definitely needs a refresher. And I think that in order to meet the goals that they set, both for climate and for Vision Zero, there needs to be swift change.
Mayor Todd Gloria says he's speeding up the process of adding new bike lanes and improving existing ones with more protection. Last week, he announced Pershing Drive in Balboa Park would have new protected bike lanes next month. That came after 2 people, a cyclist and a scooter rider, were killed by drivers on Pershing this summer.
So the mayor can, to a certain extent, redirect staff to different priorities.
Jordan Moore is a fiscal and policy analyst with the city's Independent Budget Analyst's office. He says Gloria can order city workers to create new bike lanes pretty much anywhere if he decides they're urgent. Gloria's current budget also includes a new team of 12 staffers to design and implement 9 miles of protected bike lanes per year. That's less than the 25 miles bike activists have called for. Moore says 25 miles are theoretically possible, but that would require a big shift in priorities and money.
The question would be, take 2.2 million, where would you find it, and what would those trade-offs have to be? Because it really is a question of trade-offs and service level impacts if you don't have new revenue.
In other words, bike lanes have to compete with all the city's other infrastructure needs, like filling potholes and fixing broken sidewalks. Beyond the financial challenges, new bike lanes in San Diego can be controversial. They sometimes require removing parking or a lane of travel for cars. But Laura Keenan, now a single mother, hopes those who oppose protected bike lanes keep things in perspective.
If you were able to put this bike lane there, like, maybe somebody would still, like, maybe another wife and another son would have their husband and dad one day. Because it can save a life, and I would do anything to take this pain away from anybody else, because it's just the worst experience, like, worse than I could ever imagine.
Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
And that story from Andrew Bowen was one of our most read stories this week at kpbs.org. Other top stories include the ATP bringing pro tennis back to San Diego. We'll have that for you a bit later. Also, big honors for the local food scene. 2 San Diego sushi restaurants are among those awarded Michelin stars. And as we reported earlier, San Diego Unified's push for COVID vaccine mandates was among our most read stories this week. You might think of wildfires as largely a problem for western states, but a new collaboration with NPR and Stanford University shows that smoke is causing problems thousands of miles away. KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson looks at the research and what it means locally.
Wildfires are a part of life in Southern California. Flames race out of control, evacuations are ordered, fire crews respond, and after hours, days, and in some cases weeks, the blaze is finally snuffed out and the damage is assessed. But new research finds the flames are not the only problem. Wildfire smoke has greatly extended the damaging reach of these out-of-control blazes.
I refer to them as the long arm of the fire.
Neil Driscoll is a Scripps Institution of Oceanography researcher who helps firefighters track wildfire movement in Southern California.
These plumes can go long distances. We noticed that this year. We had areas in New England being shut down because of air quality from fires that were in California.
In San Diego, the amount of smoke in the air has more than tripled over the last decade. NPR's California newsroom teamed with researchers at Stanford University to analyze satellite images of wildfire smoke. Stanford's Marshall Burke worked on the project.
We've seen a clear upward trend in San Diego County and across other parts of Southern California, an upward trend in the number of days with smoke plumes in the air, and a rapid increase in the number of days with these very heavy, these dense smoke plumes overhead.
The investigation found Oceanside residents are now living with more than a month of smoke a year. It's the same for other parts of North County like Escondido, Fallbrook, and Camp Pendleton. In Imperial County, some areas outside El Centro are now experiencing 2 months of smoke a year. Even so, Burke says the local region didn't get the worst of it.
Southern California did get hit with wildfire exposure, but really parts of Northern California, the Bay Area, got hit really hard just because of this confluence of wind direction and where exactly the active wildfires are.
But the smoke is still impacting health in San Diego and Imperial counties. The analysis found a 17% increase in hospitalizations for respiratory and cardiac conditions in the heavy fire year of 2018 compared to just 2 years before. Prescriptions for asthma medication, albuterol, spiked by nearly 21% between 2013 and 2018.
It can be very bad for people with pre-existing heart or lung disease.
Greg Hirsch is an Escondido pulmonologist. He says wildfire smoke is notoriously bad for people. Healthy folks can experience coughing, lung irritation, and shortness of breath. In more serious cases, it can cause asthma and heart disease. Hirsch is particularly concerned about tiny particles smaller than 2.5 microns that can get past the upper airways.
They get down into the smaller airways or the alveoli, the air sacs where the gas exchange occurs. They can be difficult to get rid of.
The wildfire smoke is particularly dangerous in communities of color that are already coping with poor air quality. Barrio Logan, San Isidro, and Escondido face additional challenges. Their air is polluted because of traffic or industry. San Diego County Supervisor Nora Vargas chairs the Regional Air Board. She says politicians and regulators need to take extra steps to help communities of color cope, for instance, by providing alerts about poor air quality.
Give our communities the tools that they need so they're very mindful and they know when pollution isn't at those levels so that they're able to also protect themselves.
Vargas says making sure people are aware of the risks of dirty air and giving them access to health care are important for working-class communities. She knows the Air Board can't regulate wildfire smoke, but regulators can work to reduce other pollution sources that amplify the smoke's health impacts.
We are really thinking about what are the potential risks of the different industries that are in the region to be able to mitigate that. I think that's another huge issue for us.
Meanwhile, fires continue to burn in California. There are more than a dozen active battles against wildfires. Flames from more than 7,700 blazes have already charred more than 2.4 million acres in California just this year. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Young people have the most at stake in the climate crisis, and that's because they'll be the ones who have to deal with the consequences. MG Perez shows us how local high schoolers are demanding more from older generations.
If you were looking for a sign, this might be it. Or this. Maybe this sign, too. The message is clear, and students here at Patrick Henry High School want to be heard.
Our leaders, they have made it clear that they are not going to step up for our futures, so we're going to step up for our own futures.
Abby Darling is the school's student environmental commissioner. She organized this noontime rally with several hundred of her classmates, all of them inspired by Swedish youth activist Greta Thunberg.
There is no planet B, so let's stop acting like there is one. We need to demand a change.
This global climate strike is a community effort endorsed by the school's administration. It was also encouraged by San Diego Unified School Board members who passed a resolution to protect their students' rights to protest today.
Even the principal had something to say.
You know what? The adults, we've screwed it up. Now we're looking for you. We need your help. You are our future.
Patrick Henry High School has 2,500 students. All of these students left their classrooms to create their own history lesson on campus.
The burning of fossil fuels, stuff like the Industrial Revolution, that's what kind of kick-started the degradation of our planet. And it's, as much as it sucks, it's up to us to fix it, because we're going to be who's left over.
I hope that we can be zero waste. I hope that the pollution has gone down to zero. I hope that we can have a Green New Deal. But as I see it, it's going to be hard to get there.
That's a reality check from the younger generation that might just be the best prepared to find much-needed solutions. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And as we mentioned earlier, this next story was among our most read this week at kpbs.org. It turns out San Diego has a lot of tennis fans, and that's good news for a big event wrapping up this weekend. Melissa May recently got a preview of the first San Diego Open.
The Barnes Tennis Center in Point Loma had just 5 weeks to organize and prepare the first ever Association of Tennis Professionals tourney in San Diego. From September 27th to October 3rd, tennis fans have the chance to see some of the best male tennis players in the world compete in the San Diego Open.
For the sports community and San Diego, it's a big deal.
Jack McGrory is the co-chair of the tournament and an avid tennis player. He tells us how the ATP finally selected San Diego to host an ATP tournament.
When the Chinese part of the tour got canceled because of the pandemic, they called us and said, will you please host an ATP tournament so we can keep the players working and earning prize money.
The ATP granted several one-year license to tournaments, and we were so fortunate to get one of those.
Ryan Redondo is the Barnes Tennis Center general manager and San Diego Open tournament director. He says every seat is a good one.
The courts, the weather, there is not one bad seat in this facility, so it's just going to be awesome. This center court right now holds 2,000 people. Our second court will hold about 400, so we have a lot of people that can come through.
Youth Tennis San Diego owns and operates the center and is dedicated to promoting the development of all youth through organized tennis. Clinics for kids are scheduled throughout the tournament, and many of the young athletes will be sitting in the stands or serving as ball girls and boys.
This is just going to inspire, motivate our youth. For the tennis community to be able to have, again, players just feet away, right in front of you to play. I think it's going to be a huge experience and just promote the game of tennis and our city.
This men's professional tournament will feature a 28-player singles draw and a 16-team doubles draw. A total of $600,000 in prize money is up for grabs.
You're going to have great food, a great atmosphere, music, merchandise to buy, concessions, and great weather, San Diego.
Hundreds of jobs were created to put on a tournament of this size, from construction to concessions. Plus, hundreds of volunteers are needed to help this tournament run smoothly. Besides creating jobs for the community, the tournament will help the local economy too.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars are going to go into the city just by bringing this 1 week tournament in. So it's a huge boost to the city. It's a huge boost to Point Loma, Ocean Beach, downtown, and it's so positive for the city.
Players set to appear include Andrei Rublev, currently the number 5 player in the world.
The big one is Andy Murray. Everybody's really excited about Andy. Multi-Grand Slam champion, gold medalist. So we're really looking forward to having him here. The talent is the best in the world. It's what you see on the U.S. Open, and all of these guys will be then going on to Indian Wells too.
3 local tennis players will have the opportunity to play in front of a hometown crowd, including Brandon Nakashima, who's currently ranked 85th in the world. He hit some balls on the deck of the USS Midway to promote the San Diego Open and show the ATP support for the military community.
To be able to come up here and even to hit some tennis balls up here, it's such a cool experience.
The tournament will be having a Military Appreciation Day on September 29th. Nakashima is constantly traveling to different tennis tournaments all over the world. He's looking forward to sleeping in his own bed for a change.
It's such a good feeling, coming back home and being able to play a professional tournament close by where I grew up and where I've trained as a junior. It's really cool to see, and it's going to be great to have all my family and friends come out and support.
The High Bluff Academy graduate plans on being a part of the youth clinics as much as he can. The tournament will feature 2 sessions a day. The day session starts at 11:30 a.m. and a night session starts at 5:30 p.m. Free shuttles are being provided from Liberty Station to the Barnes Tennis Center for both the day and night sessions. Masks are required on the shuttle, but not at the venue. Melissa May, KPBS News.
We hope you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thank you for joining us.